All of you. Today we are going to discuss about the globalization. Just we have started with this introduction. The modern world is seen as the world without geographical boundaries and any kind of barriers. Globalization has been the major force behind this. And it is the integration of the world economy and exchanging the ideas, products, technologies, etc. The globalization hit India late but had a huge impact on the nation's economic policies and various other aspects. So, it is the process of international integration arising from the interchange of world views, products, ideas, and other aspects of culture. Globalization means rapid increase in the share of economic activities taking place across national borders. And here just we are going to discuss about integration of economies, the increasing reliance of economies on each other, the opportunities to be able to buy and sell in any country in the world. So the opportunities for labor and capital to locate anywhere in the world. The growth of global markets in finance also we are including in the level of in the statement of globalization. And aspects of globalization, what are the aspects which are included in the concept of globalizations? Those things are trade and transaction. So whatever the trade was concentrated here, that will be included throughout the world, and transactions to be there, and capital and investment movements. As per the globalization concept was exist because only because of the low level of investing countries as well as the low level of capital can be increased towards by this globalization. So in order to increase the level of capital in those countries they are having very low, they can able to improve their level of capital into high by putting an or getting an increase in the level of capital throughout the global. And migration also can happen, and dissemination of knowledge, so we can able to transfer our knowledge from one place to another place throughout the world. It can also be done very easily with this type of globalization concept. And the dimension of globalization, we had many types and dimensions too: economic globalization, political globalization, cultural globalization, ideological globalization. In the concept of economic globalization, we are going to concentrate only the profit and loss motives. So the production as well as consumption concepts can be deal in the concept of economic globalization throughout the transport of trade and knowledge and the capital and vice versa. And the political globalization, in the concept of political globalization, the political ideas can be reached by those people who were unable to get any new ideas through which the globalization they can able to get through. And the cultural, the as for the same concept we can apply for the cultural as well as the ideological globalizations. And the reasons for globalization, so why we have to choose the concept of globalization. It can have the better resources, it can available, so the available resources can be a better one, and the low cost of productions can we can have the concept of low cost of production. So in the case of cost of production, if we are going to get very low, then our production will be increased, and if the supply is increased automatically as per the JB says law, supply creates its own demand. Whatever will be the supply that can be demanded by the people also. And dilution of the local market. So the easy availability of all the products throughout the globalization. So in that case, the local market will be diluted in an unanimous way. And operating internationally. So we can have the international market, and market expansion also will be increased in a heaviest rate, and increased profit. So as though we said, if the low cost of production, that will indulge in the level of profit will be increased as per. And the globalization, the good and bad we had deviated here. What are all the good things because of the globalizations can be achieved here? Increase the productivity, high standards of living, increase flow of foreign capital, increase competition, increase in the foreign trade. And the bad things, that means here what they are going to concentrate on is takeover of national firms. So if the national firms are giving only the laws or occurring laws. In that scenario, because of the globalization, any country can take over that particular firms itself and brings in stability. So the stability will not be there, because as per the globalization rate, price level will be oscillated, not only for day to day, but the every second will the rate will be changed. So in that concept, it brings the instability. An impact on in traditional industries. What are all the impact which are based on this traditional industries that will be available? So if there is any bad impact, that is, if there is any flood or war, anything was happened in the corner of the world, that will definitely reflect throughout the world and affect small industries. Definitely it will affect the small industries, because of the competition is very severe, and in that case we have to produce more and more goods. But in the case of small scale industries, they cannot able to produce more than that particular level. So it definitely affects the small scale industries and widens disparity. Definitely we have to widen, we have to increase the disparity level, and cultural impact was also will be here. We can say, for example, nowadays nobody is wearing half saree like that way, because they are all culture, they are all take away that only chudidar is the feasible one, and so many fashionable dresses are adapted here, but we are not going for the traditional ones. So it was basically it has tremendously have the changes in the cultural impact, like that way we can say. I said only one example. So we can able to understand what all the cultural impact because of the globalization was adapted. So the food habit also was changed. In the olden days we are following idli, dosa, pongal. Not only in olden days, now also some people are following the same. But nowadays tremendous changes in the food habit also, because we can say that pizza, burger, we doesn't know the name of the particular product, and what far the how far the food product is going to help our health, that also we doesn't know. But because of the cultural impact, we are also following the same noodles, fried rice, all those things. So these are all the some bad things because of the globalization also. And here we are coming for this globalization of Indian economy. So as per we adapted the globalization policy, what are all the things that after the independence we are going to get up? The Indian economy adopted the policy of restriction after the independence. But in 1991, due to the economic crisis, the government of India decided to open its market for the foreign investments. The new economic policies adopted an impact on every sector of the Indian economy. So these are all the things which were adapted because of the Indian economy was adopting the globalization. We are following so many crises also, and with this particular crisis we are decided to have the open market feasibilities and investments also. We are allowing foreign investments to enhance with our local markets. And major policy changes. Because of adapting this globalization, we need to change some major policies. Those are license abolishing and dilution of MRTP Act. As though we know, what is the expansion for MRTP? MRTP. Yes, just find out. And foreign investment encouraged, fiscal reforms, external sector reforms, outward looking policy, public sector reforms. So these are all the policies which has to be changed because of adapting the globalization. And impact of globalization in the concept of positive and negative was also given, and we can able to conclude this, that is globalization had increased the trade of products, ideas, technologies, etc., and created the world without boundaries, but it also had some negative impact on the developing countries. Definitely we had the negative impact in the case of developing countries. The developed countries, they can able to impact, that can able to have the positive impacts because of its globalization, as though the developing countries as well as the underdeveloped countries, they are having the burden of this particular globalization. So we should accept the concept. And the next thing is flowing with globalization. India is shining in nearly every prospect. India is getting a global recognition and slowly moving towards to become a major economic and political strength. Though the development is progressing rapidly, still many basic problems like rural poverty, corruption, and political instability remain unsolved. We can say that even because of globalization, we are getting many positive impacts, but for most things, as for the India concentrating only the labor oriented working process. So as though we are having much of laborers, so in that concept we just following the labor oriented working concepts can be followed. But in the case of globalization, we need to invest more and more amount of money that is lagging here. So because of that lag only, we are adopting so much of crisis towards this globalization. And we can also have the betterment in some cases. So literature in literate the farmers and the new technologies in the agricultural, if we are able to adopt some new technologies, and we can able to get the production also in a higher level. So these are all the things which we are going to accept. The if we are going to accept the globalization, then we have to accept the some negative points also with this particular concept. So that's all, girls. Are you able to understand this? Yes, please write and come the assignment with us regarding what are all the positive and negative impact on Indian economy after COVID. Okay, after COVID, the basic is the globalization. Okay, after the COVID, through this globalization, what are all the positive and negative impact on India? Okay, thank you, girls.